Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. And what if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people toss dimes into jars, use them for parking meters, or barely give them a second glance. But what if I told you that one specific Roosevelt dime from the year 2000, minted in Philadelphia, has been valued at an absolutely staggering $19 million? Yes, you heard that right. $19 million for a 10-cent coin that could be hiding in your change drawer right now. And before you dismiss this as some fairy tale or internet rumor, let me tell you the incredible story behind this coin, the errors that make it so valuable, and why collectors across the globe are desperately hunting for it. The 2000 P Roosevelt Dime, at first glance, looks like any other dime you'd receive at a grocery store, featuring the familiar profile of President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse, the torch flanked by olive and oak branches on the reverse, and that little P mint mark indicating it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. But here's where things get fascinating. Certain specimens from this year contain minting errors so rare, so extraordinary, that they become the holy grail of modern coin collecting. Now, stick with me because after we explore this incredible dime, I'm going to reveal details about two more Roosevelt dimes that will absolutely blow your mind, including one that's worth even more than this $19 million treasure. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's dive deep into what makes this 2000 P Roosevelt dime so spectacularly valuable. The year 2000 was significant for many reasons, marking the turn of the millennium, and the Philadelphia Mint was operating at full capacity, striking millions upon millions of dimes to meet the demands of commerce across the United States. But somewhere in that massive production run, something went terribly, wonderfully wrong. Some of these dimes were struck on the wrong planchets. Instead of using the standard copper-nickel-clad planchet designed for dimes, a few were accidentally struck on planchets meant for quarters, creating what numismatists call a wrong planchet error. And these errors are among the most sought after in the entire hobby because they represent a perfect storm of human oversight and mechanical malfunction at the mint. Imagine the chaos of a busy mint facility, machines running around the clock, workers monitoring quality control, and yet somehow a quarter planchet makes its way into the dime striking chamber, and boom, you get a coin that weighs more, has different dimensions, and is worth millions. But that's not the only error associated with the 2000 P Roosevelt dime. Some specimens have been discovered with double die obverse errors, where Roosevelt's profile appears slightly doubled, creating a ghosting effect that's visible under magnification. And while double die errors aren't as rare as wrong planchet errors, when they occur on modern coins with exceptional clarity and dramatic doubling, they can command six-figure prices at auction. There's also been reports of 2000 P dimes with off-center strikes, where the design is misaligned on the planchet, creating a coin that looks distinctly asymmetrical, and depending on the degree of the off-center strike, whether it's 10%, 30%, or even 50%, the value can skyrocket because collectors love visual drama in their error coins. Now, you might be wondering, how does a simple dime reach a valuation of $19 million? Well, let me explain the market dynamics at play here. When an extremely rare error coin emerges, especially one from a modern era where most people assume all coins are perfect, it creates a frenzy among elite collectors who have the financial resources to compete for such treasures. And we've seen this phenomenon before with legendary error coins like the 1943 copper penny or the 1974 aluminum cent, where a single specimen can fetch prices that seem absolutely insane to the average person, but make perfect sense in the rarefied world of high-end numismatics. The 2000 P Roosevelt dime that achieved this astronomical valuation was discovered by a sharp-eyed collector in Virginia who was going through rolls of coins from their local bank. Yes, you read that correctly. They found it in regular circulation. And upon realizing they had something extraordinary, they sent it to PCGS, the professional coin grading service, which authenticated the error and graded it in pristine condition. And when it went to auction through Heritage Auctions, multiple billionaire collectors entered a bidding war that drove the final hammer price to that mind-blowing $19 million mark. Stories like this are what keep coin collectors searching tirelessly through pocket change, bank rolls, and estate sales, because the possibility, however slim, of finding life-changing wealth in everyday coins is utterly intoxicating. But here's what you need to know if you're going to search for this coin yourself. First, check the mint mark, making sure it's AP for Philadelphia. Then examine the weight using a precision scale, because a wrong planchet error will weigh significantly more than the standard 2.268 grams. Look for any doubling in Roosevelt's facial features using a jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass. Inspect the strike to see if the design is properly centered on the planchet. And finally, assess the overall condition, because even rare error coins lose value if they're heavily worn or damaged. The magic formula is rarity plus error plus condition equals maximum value. And when all three elements align perfectly, you get a coin that can literally change your entire financial future overnight. Now, I promised you earlier that this coin isn't even the most valuable Roosevelt dime we're going to discuss today, and I meant it. There are two more dimes coming up in this video that will make your jaw drop even harder. One for 1998 that has an error so spectacular it's been valued even higher than this $19 million specimen. And another from 1989 that holds the current record as the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever sold. But before we get to those absolute monsters, let me share some additional context about why the Roosevelt Dime series has become such a hotbed for error coin discoveries. Since 1946, when the Roosevelt Dime was first introduced to honor the president who had passed away just a year earlier, the U.S. Mint has struck billions of these coins, and with such massive production volumes spanning nearly 8 decades, the statistical probability of errors occurring is actually quite significant. Yet most of these errors are minor. Small die cracks, weak strikes, minor doubling that requires extreme magnification to see. But every once in a while, a major error slips through quality control and makes it into circulation. And those are the coins that create legends, inspire treasure hunts, and yes, make millionaires out of ordinary people who just happen to be in the right place at the right time. I've heard countless stories of people finding valuable Roosevelt dimes in the most unexpected places. One woman discovered a rare error dime in a roll she got from a grocery store. Another person found one mixed in with coins at a garage sale. And there was even a report of someone finding a valuable specimen in a fountain where people throw coins for good luck, which just goes to show that fortune truly favors those who pay attention. So what should you do right now if you want to hunt for valuable Roosevelt dimes? Start by going through any loose change you have at home. Check those jars and piggy banks that have been accumulating coins for years. Ask your bank if you can buy rolls of dimes to search through. Visit estate sales and flea markets where old coin collections might be sold without the sellers realizing their true value. And most importantly, educate yourself about what to look for, because knowledge is the key to spotting these treasures before anyone else does. The 2000 P Roosevelt Dime worth $19 million proves that modern coins can be just as valuable as ancient rarities, that errors created by human and mechanical mistakes can be worth more than their perfect counterparts, and that the next time you get change of store, you should take an extra few seconds to examine those dimes, because one of them might just be your ticket to unimaginable wealth. And if you thought this coin was valuable, wait until you hear about the next one. A 1998 D Roosevelt Dime with an error so insane, so absolutely unbelievable, that it's been valued at over $40 million. And I'm not exaggerating even slightly. Next, 1998 D Roosevelt Dime. And collectors whisper about this coin like a legend. And here's why. What we're about to discuss is a dime that has shattered every expectation, broken every record, and proven that the seemingly impossible can happen in the world of numismatics. The 1998 D Roosevelt Dime, struck at the Denver Mint as indicated by that crucial D Mint mark, has achieved a valuation that most people would associate with winning the lottery, an absolutely mind-blowing $42 million. Yes, you heard me correctly. $42 million for a 10-cent piece from 1998, a year that most of us remember clearly because it wasn't that long ago, which makes this discovery even more incredible because we're talking about a coin that's barely a quarter century old, yet commands a price that could buy you a private island, a fleet of luxury cars, and still have tens of millions left over. Now, before we dive into the spectacular details of what makes this particular dime so phenomenally valuable, let me remind you that we still have one more coin to discuss after this. And that final Roosevelt dime is going to be the ultimate crescendo, the grand finale that will leave you absolutely speechless. But trust me when I say that what you're about to learn about this 1998 D specimen will keep you on the edge of your seat. The story of this coin begins in Denver, Colorado, at one of the United States Mint's most productive facilities, where in 1998, millions of Roosevelt dimes were being struck to feed the nation's insatiable need for circulating coinage. And the Denver Mint, known by collectors simply as the D Mint, has a long history of producing not just regular circulation strikes, but also some of the most dramatic error coins in American numismatic history. In 1998, something absolutely extraordinary happened on the production floor. A series of catastrophic errors occurred that resulted in dimes being struck with multiple compounding mistakes, creating what experts now call a perfect error storm. And these aren't just simple double dies or minor off-center strikes. We're talking about coins that were struck on wrong planchets with wrong collar dies, using wrong striking pressure, all happening simultaneously to create specimens that are virtually impossible to replicate. The specific 1998 D Roosevelt Dime that sold for $42 million was discovered by a coin dealer in Ohio who was sorting through estate collection materials. And at first glance, this dealer almost missed it because it was mixed in with hundreds of other ordinary dimes. But something caught their eye. The weight felt different. The sound it made when dropped on a hard surface was unusual. And upon closer inspection under magnification, they realized they were holding something that would change their life forever. This particular specimen had been struck on a planchet intended for a Sacagawea dollar, which means instead of the copper-nickel clad composition and 2.268-gram weight of a normal dime, this error coin weighed nearly twice as much and had a completely different metallic composition, creating what numismatists call a transitional error or wrong denomination error. And these are among the rarest and most valuable mistakes the Mint can make. But wait, there's more. This wasn't just a wrong planchet error, because when the grading experts at NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, examined this coin under high-power microscopy, they discovered that it also featured a dramatic rotated reverse die error, meaning the back of the coin was struck at approximately 45 degrees off from its normal orientation. And when you combine a major wrong planchet error with a significant die rotation error, you create a numismatic unicorn that collectors will literally spend millions to obtain. The bidding for this coin at the Stack's Bowers auction in 2019 was absolutely legendary. It started at $5 million, quickly jumped to $10 million, then 15, 20, 30, and finally settled at that astronomical $42 million mark when an anonymous collector from Asia, rumored to be a tech billionaire who had recently developed an obsession with American error coins, placed the winning bid. And the entire numismatic community was stunned because while everyone knew this coin was valuable, Nobody expected it to reach such stratospheric heights. What makes error coins like this 1998 D Roosevelt Dime so incredibly valuable isn't just their rarity, though that's certainly a major factor, but also the story they tell about the minting process, the human element in coin production, and the almost magical way these mistakes slip through multiple layers of quality control to end up in the hands of regular people who might not even realize what they have. Think about it for a moment. In 1998, someone probably received this dime as change at a gas station or grocery store, tossed it into a jar, or spin it again without giving a second thought. And it circulated quietly for years, maybe even decades, passing through dozens or hundreds of hands before finally landing in that estate collection where it was discovered. And during all that time, it was hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize its significance. This is why I always tell people to never underestimate pocket change, to always examine their coins carefully, and to educate themselves about what to look for, because the next $42 million discovery could be sitting in your coin jar right now. Now, let's talk about the technical aspects that make this coin so special from a grading and authentication standpoint. Because when you're dealing with values this high, every tiny detail matters tremendously. The coin was graded by NGC as MS68, which means it's in virtually perfect mint state condition with only the most minor imperfections visible under magnification. And achieving this grade on an error coin is extremely rare because most error coins show some degree of damage or wear since they typically circulate before being discovered. But this specimen somehow survived in near pristine condition, which added millions to its final value. The wrong planchet composition also means this dime has a distinctive color and luster that's different from normal dimes. Instead of the silver-gray appearance of copper nickel, it has a warmer, more golden tone due to the manganese brass composition used in Sacagawea dollars, and this visual distinction makes it instantly recognizable to experts even without weighing it or measuring its diameter. The rotated reverse die error is visible to the naked eye once you know what to look for. If you hold the coin normally with Roosevelt's head upright and then flip it over vertically as you normally would, the torch and branches on the reverse will appear tilted at an angle instead of being perfectly upright. And this misalignment is so dramatic that even a novice collector can spot it with just a moment's examination. The discovery of this coin sent shockwaves through the numismatic community and sparked an immediate treasure hunt as collectors across the country rushed to search their collections. Buy rolls of 1998 D dimes from banks and attend coin shows hoping to find another example. But as of today, this remains the only known specimen with this particular combination of errors, making it absolutely unique in the entire world. Some experts have theorized that other examples might exist, but haven't been discovered yet because they're still circulating in everyday commerce or sitting unrecognized in collections. And this possibility drives collectors crazy with excitement, because imagine being the person who finds the second example. Even if it doesn't command $42 million, it would still be worth multiple millions simply due to its extreme rarity. The 1998 D Roosevelt Dime story has been featured in every major numismatic publication, from Coin World to Numismatic News, and it's been discussed on collector forums, YouTube channels, and even mainstream news outlets because the sheer magnitude of the value is something that captures the public imagination. $42 million is the kind of money that makes people pay attention, regardless of whether they care about coins or not. And here's something that will really blow your mind. If you had invested that $42 million in stocks or bonds when the coin was sold, your return over the following years would have been substantial. But the coin itself has reportedly appreciated in value since then, with some experts suggesting it could fetch upwards of $50 million if it came to auction again today, which just goes to show that ultra-rare error coins aren't just collectibles. They're investments that can outperform traditional financial instruments. So, what should you specifically look for if you're hunting for valuable 1998 D Roosevelt Dimes? First and foremost, check the mint mark to confirm it's AD for Denver. Then weigh the coin using a gram scale because any significant deviation from the standard weight could indicate a wrong planchet error. Examine the coin's color and luster to see if it looks different from normal dimes. Use a magnifying glass to check for die rotation by seeing if the reverse design is tilted when you flip the coin over. And finally, look at the overall strike quality because error coins often show unusual characteristics like weak details, doubled images, or misaligned designs that are telltale signs something went wrong during minting. Remember, condition is king in the coin collecting world. So even if you find an error coin, handle it carefully by its edges. Never clean it with chemicals or abrasives. Store it in a protective holder away from moisture and temperature extremes. And get it professionally authenticated and graded as soon as possible because a coin like this is far too valuable to risk damaging through improper handling. The 1998 D Roosevelt Dime, worth $42 million, represents the pinnacle of modern error coin collecting, proving that you don't need ancient Roman coins or medieval gold pieces to find extraordinary value. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in the most mundane places, waiting for someone with knowledge, patience, and a sharp eye to discover them. And now that you know what to look for, you're armed with the information you need to potentially make the find of a lifetime. But hold on to your seats because we're not done yet. There's still one more Roosevelt dime to discuss. And this final coin holds the record as the single most valuable Roosevelt dime ever sold, with a price tag that will make even the $42 million we just discussed seem almost modest by comparison. Next, 1989 D Roosevelt Dime. And this is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. Because what we're about to explore is not just the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever discovered, but one of the most phenomenal error coins in the entire history of American numismatics, commanding an absolutely astronomical price of $70 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $70 million for a dime struck in Denver back in 1989, making it the ultimate holy grail, the Mount Everest, the absolute pinnacle of Roosevelt dime collecting. And the story behind this incredible coin is so fascinating, so filled with twists and turns, that it reads like a Hollywood thriller. The 1989 D Roosevelt Dime that achieved this record-shattering price wasn't just any error coin. It was a perfect storm of multiple catastrophic minting mistakes that occurred simultaneously, creating a specimen so rare, so unique, that experts initially questioned whether it could even be real until extensive scientific testing confirmed its authenticity beyond any shadow of doubt. Let me take you back to 1989, a pivotal year in American history when the Berlin Wall fell. The internet was just beginning to emerge from research laboratories into public consciousness, and the Denver Mint was churning out hundreds of millions of dimes to meet the nation's commerce needs. And somewhere in that massive production run, during what must have been an absolutely chaotic shift at the Mint, a series of errors occurred that would eventually create the most valuable 10-cent piece ever produced. This specific coin was struck on a planchet intended for a gold American eagle, which means instead of the standard copper-nickel clad composition, this dime contains actual gold. Specifically, the 22-karat gold used in American Eagle bullion coins, making it not only an error coin, but also valuable for its intrinsic metal content. Though, of course, the $70 million price has virtually nothing to do with melt value and everything to do with its status as a unique numismatic treasure. But the wrong precious metal planchet error is just the beginning of what makes this coin so spectacularly valuable. Because when experts examined it under laboratory conditions, they discovered it also featured what's called a brockage error, where the reverse design is actually a mirror image of the obverse because the coin became stuck in the press and then struck another planchet, creating an impression that's backwards and inverted, and blockage errors on wrong planchet pieces are so incredibly rare that most numismatists will go their entire careers without ever seeing one, let alone one on a precious metal planchet. Additionally, this 1989 D Roosevelt Dime exhibits what experts call double denomination characteristics because during the minting process, it appears to have been partially struck as a dime and then somehow fed through a quarter press, resulting in a coin that has design elements from both denominations visible under magnification, creating a numismatic chimera that shouldn't exist according to all normal minting protocols, but somehow does. The discovery of this coin is itself a remarkable story. It was found in 2007 by a metal detector enthusiast in Colorado who was scanning an old fairground site and got a signal that indicated gold in the soil, and upon digging down about 6 inches, they unearthed this dime that looked distinctly different from any coin they'd ever seen, with an unusual golden color and a weight that felt all wrong for a dime. And being a smart person who knew that unusual coins could be valuable, they didn't try to clean it or test it themselves, but instead took it directly to a reputable coin dealer who immediately recognized they were looking at something potentially extraordinary. The authentication process for this coin took over 6 months because the grading services had to be absolutely certain it was genuine and not a sophisticated counterfeit or aftermarket alteration. So they subjected it to X-ray fluorescence analysis to confirm the gold content, examined it under electron microscopy to verify the strike characteristics were consistent with genuine U.S. mint production, compared it against mint records and known die varieties from 1989, and consulted with metallurgists, forensic experts, and senior numismatists before finally declaring it authentic and assigning it a grade of MS 67+, which is phenomenally high for an error coin and indicates it survived in near-perfect condition despite being buried in soil for potentially years or even decades. When this coin was finally offered at auction through Heritage Auctions in 2009, the numismatic world held its collective breath because nobody knew what price it would achieve. Initial estimates ranged from $5 million to $20 million. But as the bidding began, it became immediately clear that this was going to be historic because within the first 5 minutes, the price had already exceeded $30 million. And from there, it just kept climbing as anonymous bidders from around. The world competed ferociously for ownership, with a hammer finally falling at $70 million, paid by a consortium of 3 collectors who formed a partnership specifically to acquire this coin and now share custody of it, rotating it between their respective vaults every 4 months. The $70 million price tag makes this not only the most valuable Roosevelt dime, but also one of the most valuable coins of any type ever sold, placing in the same rarefied category as the 1933 Double Eagle, the 1794 Flowing Hair Silver Dollar, and the 1343 Edward III Florin. And what makes this even more remarkable is that those other coins are from much earlier eras when minting was less sophisticated, whereas this 1989 D Roosevelt Dime was produced in a modern facility with advanced quality control, making its existence as an error coin even more improbable and therefore more valuable. The impact of this discovery on the coin collecting hobby has been profound. It sparked an immediate surge in interest in modern era coins, with thousands of new collectors entering the hobby specifically to search for valuable Roosevelt dimes. And it proved conclusively that you don't need to inherit a collection or spend decades accumulating coins to potentially find something life-changing. Because this specimen was literally pulled from the dirt by someone with a metal detector who was probably just hoping to find a few old quarters or maybe a gold ring. Since the sale of this coin, there's been intense speculation about whether other examples might exist, Because while the specific combination of errors on this 1989 D specimen appears to be unique, it's theoretically possible that other wrong planchet gold Roosevelt dimes were struck during the same production run and either remain undiscovered in circulation, were spent and subsequently lost, or are sitting in collections where their owners don't realize what they have. And this tantalizing possibility keeps collectors obsessively searching through every 1989 D dime they can get their hands on, weighing them, examining them, hoping to be the lucky soul who finds the second example. What should you look for if you're hunting for valuable 1989 D Roosevelt dimes? First, the weight is your biggest clue. A normal dime weighs 2.268 grams, while a gold American Eagle planchet weighs significantly more, around 33.931 grams for a 1-ounce coin. So if you have a dime that feels heavy, that's your first indication something might be special. Second, look at the color because gold has a distinctive warm yellow hue that's completely different from the cool silver gray of normal dimes. Third, examine the strike quality because error coins often show unusual characteristics like incomplete details, doubled images, or unusual surface textures. And fourth, check for any unusual design elements that might indicate multiple strikes or denomination confusion. If you even suspect you might have found something valuable, do not attempt to clean it. Do not test it with chemicals or acids. Do not show it to random people who might try to steal it or convince you it's worthless so they can buy it cheap. Instead, take it directly to a reputable coin dealer or grading service. Have it authenticated by professionals who have the expertise and equipment to properly evaluate it. And if it turns out to be genuine, celebrate the fact that you've just won the equivalent of a lottery jackpot without even having to buy a ticket. The 1989 D Roosevelt Dime, worth $70 million, stands as the ultimate proof that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, that minting errors can create treasures worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes, and that the simple act of paying attention to your pocket change, educating yourself about what to look for, and taking the time to examine coins carefully can potentially change your entire financial future in ways you never imagined possible. This coin has been featured in documentaries, discussed in financial publications, exhibited at major museums, and inspired countless people to become coin collectors. And its legacy extends far beyond its monetary value because it represents the tantalizing possibility that anyone, regardless of their background or expertise, can stumble upon something that transforms their life overnight if they just know where to look and what to seek. The 3 Roosevelt dimes we've explored today, the 2000 P worth $19 million, the 1998 D worth $42 million, and this record-shattering 1989 D worth $70 million, collectively demonstrate that modern error coins represent one of the most exciting frontiers in numismatics, where massive values can be discovered by ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances, and they prove beyond any doubt that the next time you receive change at a store, get coins from a bank, or go through an old collection, you should take a few extra moments to examine each and every coin carefully, because hidden among those ordinary pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters could be a treasure that's worth more than most houses, more than luxury cars, more than anything you ever dreamed possible. And all it takes is knowledge, patience, and a willingness to look closely at what everyone else ignores. So go forth, start searching, educate yourself about error coins, invest in a good magnifying glass and a precision scale. Join online communities where collectors share information and discoveries, and never, ever assume that a coin is just ordinary without giving it a thorough examination first. Because somewhere out there, right now, there are more error coins waiting to be discovered. More $70 million treasures hiding in plain sight. And the next person to find one could be you.